I'm still suffering from my cold, but we are going to be taking a look at the 5 things that I think Spider-Man on the PS4 did wrong. Returning viewers and members of the community, you obviously know that this is part 2. We already took a look at 5 things the game did right, and it did so many more than 5 things right. And new viewers, welcome. Love having you here. Before you hit that dislike button because you just love Spider-Man so much, I urge you to check out the 5 things it did right. And, see where I gave the game credit, or stick around and listen to my opinion and listen to me justify my, dissenting opinions on parts of the game. Now, the first thing I want to take a look at is the stealth encounters. Do I love that these are here? Yes, I do. Do I think that they're fun? Yes, I do. Do I think they need work? Oh, yes, I do. They are so janky. A lot of them don't even make any sense. And some of the footage you're going to see here is from the original base game. Some of it is from post-game because I decided to go back and replay some of the DLC. All these criticisms hold water for both since the post-game DLC is just part of the game anyway. As far as the stealth encounters, sometimes you will get in a stealth encounter and no one will ever see you no matter what. The AI is just so stupid. It doesn't matter if you're playing a Spider-Man or MJ, it holds the same for both. Now, that's a big issue with a game that prioritizes stealth as a main function of the game. Like, it's one of the main 2 types of gameplay. Obviously, there's traversal, which I don't really consider, I suppose it is gameplay, but essentially interacting with enemies, you have stealth and combat. And if half of that is really janky and doesn't work right, that's sort of a bad foot to start out on. Now, most of the time, it's fine. But it doesn't really make any sense. Sometimes enemies won't see you no matter what you do. They won't hear anything you do no matter how loud it is. Other times it's like they'll just pick you out in the sky and notice you and you'll alert them. And then you have to sort of just disappear and wait for a cooldown for it to go back to normal. It's really just obnoxious. And I think that a lot more work could have gone into the stealth portions. It's probably the main thing that I hope is vastly improved in the inevitable sequel to this game. The second thing that I think Spider-Man got wrong is actually the combat. Now, wait a second. Hold on, Jay. You said that the combat was really fun. You said it was fantastic. You even said that you'd pretty much put it up there on par with Arkham in terms of how fun it is. Yes, I would. Even how functional it is, a lot of times I would put it up there. If you're really trying, like you're giving 100% effort and you are playing it, yeah, it's close. It's almost up there, I think, and some people prefer it, and that's fine. But here's the problem with it. It is way too forgiving. Way too forgiving. Now, you don't really even have to try on the normal difficulty setting. I mean, you can even bump it up to, like, the hardest difficulty setting, and you can dodge everything. Like, everything. Even in Arkham, there's definitely things you can't just counter with just a press of Y or triangle. You have to actually, circumvent these enemies in a different way, such as like vaulting over them or stun and then vaulting to take them down. Obviously there's also the enemies that get electricity. I was gonna say get electric on them. They get electricity surrounding them and you have to hit them with the back claw first to electrify them. I'm just using that as an example because these games are often compared. In Spider-Man, there's very little like that. The combat is so forgiving that it doesn't even matter what you do because you build up a very basic combo and you can just instantly heal by pressing down on the D-pad. No matter what, there's no consequence to your actions. You just heal, you're fine. And even if that wasn't a thing, which I think is a problem because yes, Spider-Man has faster healing, but is not Wolverine. Even if that was not in the game, you have access to so many gadgets and so many different types of webbing and so many of each. Like, you don't just get 1 of each or 2 of each, you'll get like 4 to 5 of every single use of a gadget. And then if you slap on the resupply on top of that, which is a suit power, it's like infinite. So you can just spam out all these things and take enemies out. The most abusive way to play the game is just to launch these, I forget the name of them, but they're like anti-gravity grenades that go off and they send all these enemies into the sky and you just take them down up there, or you just shoot webbing at them up there and it's over. This is the easiest combat I've probably seen in a game like this. Honestly, a lot of the footage you're seeing is just me mashing, not even caring, just for the point of showing you how there is no consequence to how you play the combat sections. There's very little skill involved, and unless you are someone who is an older player, and I say that because I used to play a lot of games with my dad, and he was a lot older, and so like his timing would be off on things like this. And that's just something that comes with age, right? We get older, our reaction time goes down, nothing to be ashamed of. Unless you are in that demographic, or you are someone who just has really bad hand-eye coordination, again, no shade, this is not going to be a problem. I have bad hand arthritis, and it's no issue to me to play the combat sections of this game at all in any way. The third issue I have is also with combat, which I know I jammed 2 combat issues into the last one, but that's that enemies will basically float towards you when trying to hit you. And I'm hoping that that's sort of caught in the footage because it's hard to pick out specific examples of it. It seems to happen a lot with bigger enemies as well. Now, comparing this back to Asylum, we've all been there. You're up there like in combo 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. I don't know what you're at because there's not unlimited enemies in those maps. But let's just say you're pretty high up there, and all of a sudden, the game thinks an enemy hit you that's like 10 feet away, or at least it feels like he is. Like, it very clearly should have whiffed by you by about a foot or two, and the game makes it connect with you. It's sort of like the enemy hit air and they hit you. Now, no. Spider-Man doesn't have that problem because they will basically teleport the enemy to you to hit you. They will not hit just empty air. They will fly towards you like a figure skater and smack you in the back of the head. Now, this isn't an issue in terms of difficulty because the game is so easy. Like, it's kind of a piss poor excuse if you're thinking about like a challenge. Like, there's no challenge to it. But it's an issue in terms of mechanics and actually working right. It doesn't make any sense. Like, these enemies, it's almost like they all have Heelys on. Like, they're all that popular kid in elementary school who all the girls fawned over who had Heelys, and you couldn't afford Heelys because your parents didn't have a lot of money, and you thought, man, I really want some Heelys because these girls will like me, but no, you never got Heelys. Yeah, so they kind of just like fly at you and hit you, and they take you off. I take you out. I think I got a little sidetracked there. The fourth issue I have with this game is the city itself. The city and world are beautiful, and I love all of the Easter eggs in them. The game deserves full credit for that. And parts of the city feel very alive. And the whole city feels way more alive than something like the abomination that is Spider-Man 3, the game, on the PS3 and Xbox 360. I'm going to include a little link in the end screen. You should check out a Traumatic Trash we did on that game. But the whole city doesn't feel alive still. There's just something about it to me, and this is a hard one because it feels more like a feeling criticism. I try to be very logical in these videos and sort of point out like what I'm talking about, so I think the best way I can do that is to show you a section of this game where the city feels alive to me. I was just swinging around, and I found this basketball court in a neighborhood, and there were just young kids playing on the basketball court, teenagers playing basketball. It felt like NPCs just about doing something in the world, living their life. You don't see that in a lot of places. Now, there are like immensely finely crafted details in other places, like different geographical landmarks that they've used, or being able to cram so many Marvel Universe Easter eggs into the game. But there's so little of the NPCs doing their own thing other than just walking down the sidewalk. Like, you don't see really many street vendors of any kind. Like, nobody has anything set up. There's never anybody hanging out in alleyways. Just nobody, nothing going on there. Like, there should be a lot more happening in the city when you sort of market your game in a way off of the city being its own person with a personality. I think this game sort of demonstrates that this is a step in the right direction in how to make a city feel alive, but it's not the end result. I really do think that the sequel can be better in this regard, and I'm sure it will be, but I still think it's worth pointing out that it's not perfect. And as great as the city is, and as much as I love it, I know it can be better. My final criticism is one of the biggest that I have. And it's an issue that I didn't find in some of the old Spider-Man games, and maybe some of that was my age. Like, especially Spider-Man 2 the game, and even Spider-Man 3 the game on last gen. So I'm talking the version of Spider-Man 3 that was on PS2 and original Xbox, and obviously the version of Spider-Man 2 that was on those same consoles. This wasn't a problem. And that's variety in street crimes. There is, like, no variety to street crimes. There's a few very basic ones. Somebody's getting kidnapped, and then there's, a different spin on that sort of in the DLC. There's also things like bomb defusal, and there's different spins on that, I suppose, in the DLC that are very not different at all, but let's just call them different for the sake of argument. Then there's even things like, they're just so forgettable. I'm trying to even, come up with some of them. I suppose shootouts are back, but a lot of these are not interesting, and they are all criminal-based things. It used to be in old games, like Spider-Man 2, for example. There was a lot more things like, and people meme on the balloon, but there would be things like a little girl, letting go of her balloon, and Spidey would catch it and give it back to her. And it was just a tiny little thing that would happen, a random event, and it would happen. Yes, it would happen more than once in the game, and people got tired of it. But that wasn't the only thing that happened. There were civilian-based random events, and then there were enemy-based random events. And then on top of that, in something like Spider-Man 3, there was also turf control, where you'd try to be helping the police get the city back from different gangs. In this game, though, that's all gone. All there is these criminal-based random events that don't really feel any different and don't matter. I am so glad they're here, and I'm glad that they're respawning and they don't go away because they give you something to mess around with, but I don't really think they improve the game that much. I think that all of the random events, like the random crimes that are in the game, should be in the game. But I think that there should have been a bunch more different ones that they put time into to actually make it feel like a live world versus just cycling back the same 5 missions over and over again. Hey, so thank you for sticking it out with me. These were my 5 things that I really think Spider-Man did wrong, and that I really do believe the sequel can improve upon and do better. So let me know in the comments down below what you are thinking. Do you think that any of these were a problem? Are there any of these that you don't mind at all? Like maybe you love the random events, maybe you think the city feels way more alive than I do. What are your thoughts down there? And also let me know what you want to see in the future for the 5 things it did right and 5 things it did wrong series. Now, I've already mentioned some of the things I'm working on, the first Infamous, the Batman Telltale games, and I mentioned in a community post, I would like to look at the Battlefront games, but I want to gauge interest because I don't want to make things that are not interesting to you guys. There's a lot that's interesting to me, but it's really important to me that everybody, or at least the biggest swath of people that I can get to enjoy the videos does, because, we're here enjoying it as a community. It's not just a me thing. So I love getting your feedback on that as well in the comments, and I appreciate all of you. You're an awesome community. I couldn't ask for a better bunch of pals, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a fantastic day.